30 degrees, then we have got 45 and 60. But we are going to concentrate more on 30, 45 and 60. But I'll also tell you that we have other special angles like 0 degrees, we have got 90, we have 180, we have got 270 and we have got 360. Okay, but for you guys in this grade, you concentrate more on 30, 45 and 60. Okay, so if you want to get the ratios for sine, cos, and tan, if your reference angle is 30 degrees or 60 degrees, you need a right angle triangle like that. Okay, so you are going to need a right angle triangle such that this angle will be 30 degrees. That's 30. Obviously, this becomes 60 degrees. Okay, so for those triangles, right, we are going to need our hypotenuse to be equal to 1 to 2. Okay, this is going to be a 2, and our opposite side is going to be 1. Okay, if you use the theorem of Pythagoras, you find that the adjacent side, okay, here I'm writing it with reference to 30 degrees as my special angle, but I can also write in terms of 60, which is the same thing. So this side here is going to be the square root of 3. Okay? So you don't really need to, if you can manage to memorize the ratios, it's fine. But if you can memorize this right angle triangle, such that the hypotenuse is 2 units, the opposite side with reference to 30 degrees is 1, means the adjacent side is going to be square root of 3. Okay? I hope you are aware that this square root of 3 comes from the theorem of Pythagoras. Okay, it will be 2 squared is equal to 1 squared plus this squared. So you get 4 equal to 1 plus this side. Then you take the 1 the other side, you are going to end up getting a 3. Then you take square root, you end up getting that. So how you get this is based on the theorem of Pythagoras. So with reference to 30 degrees, this opposite side is going to be 1 unit. The hypotenuse will always be 2 units. Okay? Then, from there now, if we come here on the table, as you can see on the table, cosine of theta, okay, for 30 degrees. If your reference angle is 30, then you are going to have adjacent over hypotenuse. So your adjacent side is square root of 3. So this will be an opposite side. That will be an adjacent side with reference to 30 degrees. Okay? If it changes to 60, this becomes the opposite side and that becomes the adjacent side. Okay, so if we start with 30 degrees, we are going to end up having adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of 30 is equal to square root of 3 over 2. Then for cos 60, if we are going to end up having cos 60, means this side becomes the opposite side and that one becomes the adjacent side. So it will be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 1 over 2. Okay, then sine 30, the reference angle is that opposite side over hypotenuse 1 over 2. Now you can see here that cos 60 is going to be equal to sine 30. Okay, I told you when I was doing trig ratios, the calculation of trig ratios, that there is a relationship between sine and cos, right? Then for sine 60, it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse square root of 3 over 2. So you get that, right? Then to get tan 30, this is your opposite side, that's your adjacent, it will be 1 over square root of 3. And then tan 60, it will be opposite over adjacent, which will be square root of 3 over 1, which is square root of 3. Okay? So, all you have to do is you memorize this right angle triangle with the hypotenuse, which is 2 units, and opposite side reference to 30 degrees, which is equal to 1 unit. The third side, you can get it using the theorem of Pythagoras. And then from there, you can carry on. But you are going to realize that as you get used to it, you won't need the triangle. It becomes natural in your head. Okay? It becomes natural in your head. Yes? So we have to draw a triangle there? No. No. The triangle is used to derive the ratios. But in the examination, you never get a question saying, use this triangle to determine the ratio, the trigonometric ratio for cos 30, sin 30, and so on. No. Yeah, you can use it. But you see, there are some times when you are not allowed to use a calculator, but you have to use it maybe in a smart way. Okay? Okay? I don't need a calculator for sin 30, cos 30, and tan 30. I just do it from my head.
And you've been doing this for how many years?
Okay. Even you guys, you're still young. Even when I was your age, I also did the trigonometric ratio. Please, don't stress. Okay? In the next coming few days, you are going to end up knowing what tan 30, sin 30 are. Okay? If you can't memorize them, you have no other way maybe to try and use your calculator. But there are times when your calculator is not allowed. Okay? In that case, if you use a calculator, you will be penalized for using a calculator. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's carry on. Then for 45 degrees, we need a right angled isosceles triangle. Okay, so we have something like this. So that's 90. And this angle here will be 45 degrees, and that will be 45 degrees. Okay? And then, since it's a right angled isosceles, with reference to each of the two angles, this length will be 1, that will be 1, and this becomes square root of 2. Okay? Using the theorem of Pythagoras. Because this is 45, that's 45. If this is 1 unit, that should be 1 unit, because it's an isosceles triangle. Sides opposite equal angles are equal. Then to get this square root of 2, you use the theorem of Pythagoras. 1 squared plus 1 squared gives you 2. Then you take the square root, you get square root of 2. Okay? So, with reference to this 45 degrees, if I want cos 45, it's going to be adjacent. Okay? If this is my opposite side, that becomes my adjacent side. So it will be cos 45 will be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 1 over square root of 2. Your calculator does not give you cos 45 as, cos 45 as 1 over square root of 2. It says root 2 over 2. Can you check that? Put cos 45 in your calculator. It doesn't give you as 1 over square root of 2, right? Yes, that's one shortcoming of using a calculator when you are dealing with special angles like 45 degrees.
Okay, why would it do that?
Yeah, because it rationalizes. You haven't done rationalizing as yet in grade 10. Okay, that's done in grade 11. Okay, your calculator was programmed in such a way that it rationalizes that 1 over square root of 2. Right? Then, so sine 45 is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, so it will be 1 over square root of 2. Now, the two ratios, sine 45, cos 45, are equal. Sine 45, cos 45 are equal. Then, tan 45 degrees is equal to 1 because the opposite over the adjacent, they are equal in length. So you get a ratio which is 1. So tan 45 is a 1. Okay? Later we'll talk about other angles like 0 degrees, 90, and so on. But for now you need to know your three special angles. 30, 45, 60 without using a calculator. Okay? I can't tell you how, but I'll see it. Alright. So here we have got some examples, so you can write here examples. Right. So sine 45 degrees times cos 45 degrees. This is equal to, now sine 45 is equal to 1 divided by square root of 2. If you use your calculator will say square root of 2 over 2. They are the same, but you're not supposed to use the calculator. So this is the same as 1 over square root of 2 times cos 45 is also 1 over square root of 2. Okay? Then 1 times 1 gives you 1. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 gives you square root of 4, which is a 2. So the final answer here is going to be a half. Okay? Now the mark allocation, it is allocated as knowing that sine 45 is 1 over square root of 2, 1 mark. Knowing that cos 45 is 1 over square root of 2, another mark. And the final answer, 1 mark. Okay? Alright? Then let's move on to cos 60. Now B, we have got cos 60 degrees plus tan 45 degrees. Okay? Now I know that cos 60 is a half. Okay? So this is going to be equal to a half plus, okay, in this case I don't need to put brackets. So it will be plus, tan 45 is a 1, so you put 1 there. A half plus 1 gives you 3 over 2. So again, the mark allocation, 1 mark for a half, 1 mark for 1, 1 mark for 3 over 2. Okay? Then we can do C. Now C, we have sine 60 degrees minus cos 60 degrees. Sine 60 is square root of 3 over 2. So this is going to be square root of 3 over 2 minus cos 60, that's a half. Okay? Now, you're not supposed to use a calculator. So no decimals as answers here. Now, because the denominator here is the same, we just subtract the numerators. So your final answer will be square root of 3 minus 1 all over 2. In fact, let me write this using another color, which will make it more clear. Your final answer here will be square root of 3 minus 1 all over 2. Okay, you leave your answer like this, because you're not supposed to use a calculator. So your answer will be square root of 3 minus 1 all over 2. Okay, and again, the mark allocation, 1 mark for knowing that sine 60 is square root of 3 over 2, another mark for knowing that cos 60 is a half. The final mark, square root of 3 minus 1 over 2. Now, if you use your calculator, it should give you this answer. Okay? Your calculator should give you this. But if you jump from here without writing that sine 60 square root of 3 over 2, and you get this answer here, you might get a 0. Okay? Was no calculator. So let's start with the first one. Okay? A, we have sine 60 degrees over cos 60 degrees. That's equal to tan 60 degrees. Okay? Now, we know here, because we have got angles on both sides, we have to put the values of tan 60, sine 60, cos 60. Now, sine 60 is square root of 3 over 2, divided by cos 60 is a half. Tan 60, okay, is square root of 3. Okay? Tan 60 is square root of 3. So I need to simplify the left-hand side until I get square root of 3. So that will give me square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. That's equal to square root of 3. And these two cancel, so you end up having square root of 3 equal to square root of 3. Then you say, therefore, the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. Okay? But I do see, then you can do B in your own time. Because I need to move on to another aspect. Okay. I don't see you every day, so I have to use the time very carefully that I have. Right. C. For C, you have cos 30 degrees is equal to the square root of 1 minus sine squared 30 degrees. Okay, it looks scary, but it's not that difficult to do. Okay, my suggestion here is either you can square both sides, okay, that's one way of doing it, or you can just do it as it is. Okay, cos 30, that's square root of 3 over 2. Right? Now, sine 30, this sine squared 30, when you write it, it will be 1 minus, open bracket, sine 30 is a half, so it will be a half squared, like that. Okay, I told you about the square. It was the next side that you did with the square. When we were using a calculator. Okay, so this becomes square root of 3 over 2 is equal to the square root of 1 minus 1 over 4. I'm not using a calculator, so you have to show everything. Then this becomes square root of 3 over 2 equal to the square root of 3 over 4. Okay? Now here, the square root of 3 over 4, it can be split into 2 based on the two numerators. So you can have square root of 3 over 2 is equal to the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 4. And that will give you square root of 3 over 2 is equal to the square root of 3 over 2. Because the square root of 3 is not a perfect square, so it remains what? Square root of 3. But 4 is a perfect square. So what that means is that the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. Then you are done. Okay.